Be honest, when I tell you the time a story takes place in an episode, do any of you ever use that information? I'm asking because Netflix has stuffed up every starting time I've ever given you for season 2 by about 20 seconds thanks to their little Netflix Originals title card. So when I tell you that the first story in today's video, Happy Birthday, is an anime original story that takes place in episode 5 from
10 minutes and 10 seconds.
will people understand that this time does not take that title card into account, so the Netflix version actually starts at
10 minutes and 30 seconds.
For the record, in future, I will not be taking that title card into consideration. I've done this analysis series so far with the understanding that the OP starts at 0, unless there's a pre-OP scene, and I am not going to change that to cater to Netflix's insecurity. Wow, Joe, did you seriously use Happy Birthday's introduction to rant about Netflix? Well, you know what? The original Happy Birthday analysis I was writing nearly threw the whole analysis series off schedule, so I'd say this makes us even. Okay, that rant got a little hyperbolic. Truth is, I really love Happy Birthday. It's just that the reasons I have for enjoying the story can be explained in a very short amount of time. We all know that Takagi can read Nishikata like a book. He even says so himself within this very story. She usually uses this intuition to tease him further, but this is one of the few stories where she uses this understanding to avoid teasing Nishikata. Now you might be thinking that she does tease him in this story, right at the start when she wins the game and thoroughly explains his plan back to him. You could say that this doesn't count as teasing, but for the sake of argument, let's say it does. Takagi has a goal in this story. She wants to give Nishikata a birthday present. To achieve this goal, she needs to gather the gifts and then give them to him. She realizes that she can kill 2 birds with 1 stone if she goes to the cake shop with him, so she creates a situation in which they do go together. Assuming that this counts as teasing, it is at this point that the teasing stops. When they are next in line at the cake shop, Takagi probably knows how tense Nishikata is about collecting his order in front of her, and so she asks to go first. When she hands the gift to Nishikata, she says that it is a prize for winning the game they had played earlier. And lastly, she leaves the store without watching him collect his order, despite doing that being in her character, as pointed out by Nishikata. She offers to go first and leaves right afterwards to prevent him from feeling self-conscious about what he is there to collect, but telling him that the gift is a prize serves a couple of purposes. Firstly, it declares him the winner of their previous competition, taking away any defeat he might have felt and sparing him from his own self-inflicted punishment. It's also a way to help Nishikata comprehend the gift. I've said before that he contextualizes his relationship with Takagi through competition, but what I have not said is that Takagi seemingly understands this, so she justifies giving Nishikata a gift with competitive language. What's interesting about that second point is that it doesn't work. Nishikata still sees it as a gift, and by his reaction at the end, a gift that he is very grateful for. So much so that in the very next story, Sneeze, he combats his own embarrassment to properly thank her for it. Perhaps part of Takagi's reaction to this exchange was joy that Nishikata understood that this was a genuine gift and not a prize like she said. So long story short, I enjoyed Happy Birthday because it showcases Takagi using her heightened perception and knowledge of Nishikata to give him a good day despite her bad habits. But surely looking at the timecode now, you can understand why I couldn't analyse this story on its own. So with this lightning analysis system, I still get to talk about it, and you get to hear me talk about it and 2 other stories. For instance, Revenge, a story based on the source material's 52nd chapter and that you can find at the beginning of episode 6. Revenge confirms a point I made in the skipping stones and arm wrestling analysis videos. When Nishikata and Takagi are pitted against each other in a competition of raw brawn, with nothing else getting in the way, Nishikata will come out on top. Takagi usually negates Nishikata's advantage by using mind games or trickery, but had Kimura not gone to the bathroom, she would not have had the chance to do that. Funny, this isn't the last time that Kimura's actions will lead to Takagi and Nishikata being together. Of course, once Takagi does have access to Nishikata, she tries to negate his advantage by using mind games and trickery like she normally would. But despite that trickery working even better than Takagi had intended, it still wasn't enough. If it weren't for Nishikata assuming that he had lost, he would have won. So even with Takagi working against him, Nishikata is so strong that he still would have come out on top had he not prematurely declared defeat. Of course, I could not possibly talk about Revenge without mentioning the trick that Takagi plays on Nishikata and his reaction to it. I said back in my arm wrestling analysis that Nishikata enjoyed holding Takagi's hand, given the unreserved thoughts he had about how it felt, and the fact that after losing he was still thinking about her hands. This moment goes on to confirm that observation. When he imagines himself holding Takagi's hand, he loosens his grip. Takagi is genuinely shocked by this response, wearing a similar expression to that in Room and Critical Hit, perhaps only just now understanding how much Nishikata enjoyed that experience from arm wrestling. And she is pleased with the result to the point where she straight up compliments Nishikata for looking cool. Lastly, we move on to Dodgeball. Based on the manga's 75th chapter, this story is found in episode 6 at 7 minutes and 20 seconds. Well, actually it starts at 8 minutes and 50 seconds, but between Revenge and Dodgeball there's an original, untitled segment that gets us hyped for the camping trip episode, which is quickly approaching now that I think about it. All that's worth saying about this small segment is something that I also said in my first impressions video. One might consider Nishikata not asking Takagi to walk home a step back given the events of Invitation. But I believe, with absolutely no proof, that Nishikata would have eventually asked. But Takagi took that burden from him because she was excited to finally walk home with him again. So like I said, at 8 minutes and 50 seconds we get into the story proper. I'm sure I don't need to tell you that the ultimate message behind this story is pretty obvious, to the point where even Nishikata believes he has picked up on the implications. Throwing the ball for Takagi is a metaphor for confessing her feelings or showing her love. Asking Nishikata if he would catch the ball even if she threw it in a weird way is asking if he would accept her feelings even if she showed them in a strange way. And obviously telling him she'd rather he catch it than dodge it is telling him that she'd rather he accept her feelings than run away from them. This implication is expanded when the ball is thrown and Nishikata decides that he is going to catch it. In regards to this metaphor we've been talking about, he decides to accept her feelings but is ultimately unable to do so, just barely touching the ball before it leaves his grasp. He doesn't catch the ball because Takagi isn't throwing it straight, and Nishikata is not ready to make that kind of catch, or any kind of catch for that matter. Takagi telling Nishikata that she's glad he went for the catch is also implicitly telling him that she's glad he will try to accept her feelings when the time comes. The next point slightly cuts into the next analysis, but Date begins with a conversation about the game they had just played, so I think it fits in here better than it would in a Date analysis. When Takagi asks if Nishikata would rather she catch or dodge, she is metaphorically asking if Nishikata admitted his feelings, would he rather Takagi accept them or escape them? Nishikata's declaration that he would get her no matter what implies that if he were to share his feelings, Takagi would accept them no matter how ready she was for that kind of confession. We can tell this by Takagi's reaction, calling Nishikata assertive. Now, obviously we will not see this situation play out in this season, but we will see Nishikata make significant strides towards that point, and by the end of the season, he might just be a little more ready to catch that ball. And that is it for this analysis. Thank you to Orion Tran for supporting me on Patreon. If you'd like to join Orion or see the outtakes video for free, you can do so via links in the description. Thank you all very much for watching, and I will see you next time.